In the first segment of this series, we painstakingly went over how computers work, and we talked about how the idea of random is a little bit funny because we typically are only satisfied by deterministic things. If you go back in human civilization 3,400 years or so, back to the first harmonic music that we can find, you'll either be surprised or underwhelmed to find that it uses Pythagorean tuning, which is very similar to the Western tuning that we use today. Arguably, we have improved on Pythagorean tuning because of the pesky old wolf fifth, where the diminished sixth sounds atonal like a wolf howling over your composition. The wolf only cares about hunting and other wolves and Jason Statham. It doesn't have any knowledge or desire to sound pleasant to the human ear. In other words, it's random, so we don't like it. So, skipping over a whole lot of history, we got rid of that pesky wolf fifth so our kids could sleep at night, and now we have 12 notes to choose from in the standard Western style of tuning. But how do we come up with that tuning? How do we come up with those notes? It's not as if some ancient civilization had a meeting to decide how music would sound for the next, couple hundred years. Well, it's kind of unavoidable. Wind naturally resonates at a 3-to-2 ratio, creating a near perfect fifth. If you've ever played with one of those toy whirly tube things, you spin them around and it creates the first couple notes from the Jeopardy theme song. Well, why is that? It wasn't designed to do that. It just naturally does.
This was precisely the moment when he realized that he had 25 feet of drainage tubing in his garage. So he set out to prove something that he already knew. That if you held a giant tube outside of a speeding vehicle, it would resonate in fifths.
It sounds super creepy. When the wind hits the ridges, that's what oscillates the sound. Everybody's scared to go double the speed limit.
It would have been an F-sharp major chord, if not for the awful wolf fifth.
Over time, what we like hearing has evolved a whole lot. If you played Herbie Hancock's brilliant piano composition, Manhattan Island, to somebody from the 17th or 18th or even 19th century, they would probably hear it as random. But today, people hear it as deeply emotional and romantic. Alright, so maybe you're an electronic musician who doesn't really play an instrument or know how to write songs that well, or maybe you are a classical musician who only sight reads and wants to start composing music of your own, or maybe you're a competent composer who is just looking for ideas. All of the above characters may at some point utter the phrase, "I wish that there was software that could help me write melodies." Now the monkey's paw has cursed you with options, many of which are vastly complicated software suites with a sharp learning curve, many of which are cash-grabbing abandonware. What do you do? Believe it or not, there's actually a pretty competitive market for melody assistant software, and my job today is to guide you through them. But first, we need to set our expectations. Years ago, I made a video on a different channel explaining why this type of software may underwhelm you. And in the last video of this series, I showed you how we're generating music out of thin air. But there is no algorithm for feels. The truth is, music as we know it actually doesn't care all that much about rules. If you think that you found a chord progression or a scale combination that is wrong, it's only a matter of time before someone plays it right. Let me explain. A pet peeve of mine a couple years ago was that viral internet thing where everybody was talking about the 4 chords that are in every pop song, and seemingly every music theory channel had something about it. And that one. While it is interesting that so many songs use the exact same chord progression, what it entirely ignores is performance. And that's really where the feels come out. I'm going to improvise for about a minute, and I'm going to give myself some pretty crappy rules when doing so. I have to start at a C, and then end at the C below it. Every single root note that I choose between these two Cs has to be one semitone less than the last root note. So, and so on. But despite the adversity of these rules, I'm going to reach down deep in here, and I'm going to pull out some feelings, and I'm going to use them to drive my performance. All right, so there's C. on that D. I want to resolve on the C. That wasn't so bad, was it? It is in my humble and subjective opinion that music is 30% notes and 70% performance. Everybody has a different opinion on that, but if we're only concentrating on that 30% that are notes, things can still get very tricky. For example, with chord inversions, this is a C major. Okay, or is this a C major? Or is this a C major? Or if we go down and leave that octave and do this. That's not a C major, but it's all the same notes. We're still hitting all the same notes, yet it sounds drastically different. Why is that? Without diving into music theory here, things like chord inversions and harmonization change the way that music feels when you hear it. You can play a major chord and have it sound sad, or you can play a minor chord and have it sound happy. Using a Harmony Assistant program, I rewrote a sort of version of a jazz classic Springtime, and this is what we got. Going from that C sharp to that G major sounded absolutely wrong. It sounded like the wrong note was played. So I made another MIDI file in this software, and I'm going to speed things up. I put in an arpeggiator and then humanized all of the notes and randomized all of the velocities, and now it might sound a little more lively and human, and maybe when we land on that G, it'll sound right. At this point, we can pretty much decide that that G major sounds absolutely awful and have the software recommend a better chord. My regular viewers know that this is probably just a dumb magic trick, and I'm going to predictably swoop in and go from that C sharp to that G major just fine by reharmonizing things my way. And you're right. Got it. What I did there was actually not all that impressive for a pianist or a professional musician. What it is exclusive to humans. If you just heard those melodies, and if I didn't set it up telling you that there were rules that I was following or a puzzle I was trying to solve, you probably would have just heard music. And that's the point. The chord progressions didn't matter at all. If and when machines get smart enough to express themselves, they're not going to happily make melodies for you to upload to Spotify and claim as your own. They'll just burn you alive, use your body for fuel, and upload their own lit trap tracks to Spotify. But in the meantime, I have some neat plugins to show you. I do realize that my pessimism thus far has not really done much to help you get excited to watch the rest of the video, but there is quite a bit of value in Melody Assistant software. It can inspire you to write your own piece, and more importantly, can be used as a bridge to help musicians understand what is happening technically within their songwriting. With a lot of this software, you're looking at your chords and your scales and your progressions, and you're finding out why something doesn't work. And then you can identify it later, and that just means that you're going to be writing songs more efficiently in the future. Quite often, I will sit down at a piano or pick up a guitar and jam with a generative modular patch. What the machine can't do, I can. And what I can't do, the machine can do. And we make a great team. So my pessimism so far in this series is not without reason. Generative music is not worthless, but we need to adjust our expectations so we can appreciate the tools that are available. So let's look at them tools. In the late 80s, somebody wrote this ridiculous script to make this absolutely over-the-top action movie featuring the real-life stories of classical composers throughout history. And they met with Arnold Schwarzenegger about this to try and get in motion, and he said, "I'll be Bach." So first up we have Cthulu, which is probably the most popular generative MIDI making, melody helping tool because it is from Extra Records, the same people who make Serum, and also Deadmau5 I think Deadmau5 owns a company. Weirdly enough, out of everything that we're covering today, this is probably the plugin that I've used the most throughout my life, and I've never actually used it to help me write a song, or I've never actually used it to generate anything of my own. I've used it to explore Bach's chorales. Now, I paid good money for this, and it has an arpeggiator, and this is the first time I've actually enabled it. It sounds geeky to say, but there's a lot you could learn from interactively going through Bach's chorales. The way that he suspends chords and then ends with a resolution that you don't expect, but still sounds great for some reason, and considering how old this music is, it's pretty fascinating. And then D minor, right? Nope, D major. Yeah, intuitively, if I'm going to play with that A major, I'm going to end on a D minor. But Bach doesn't. But that's crazy old Bach for you, and in all that stormy adversity on a happy and formal note. Here's some Debussy for you. Clair de Lune. Let's get the arpeggiator going here. Can we randomize the velocity? That'd be nice. Oh, wow. Okay, this has different, but yeah, this is way more powerful than I thought it was. Oh, we could even humanize the time. Since I'm communicating through Cthulu and not directly into piano tech, I'm going to have to put my foot down. This clearly has a lot of features that I don't use or even know about, since I only really use it to explore classical compositions, but if you're interested in this plugin, I'm sure there is a wealth of videos covering it because it is quite popular. This is MidiBot. It only costs $5. It runs only as an effect in FL Studio, for me at least, and it is written in Juice, which is kind of like an overlay for C sound. Here it's kind of just making a bunch of random stuff in a Aeolian scale. If I wanted to change that scale, that can be done. This is the range of notes that I'm allowing it to hit. I'm gonna keep it pretty wide because it's a piano. This is the clock. Okay, and then let's bring in some drums. All right. This is the drummer. We're going to give it a 21 note range. Get that overhead up a bit so it sounds a little more jazzy. This is our bass. It is also going to be on the E Aeolian scale, and it is going to have a shorter range and a slower clock. Now let's bring it in. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the Generative Jazz Trio. This will get boring after about 30 more seconds. This is Harmony Improvisator, which is actually a really, really good plugin for helping you come up with a melody. It offers sort of classical-esque suggestions. So we start here. It's actually pretty interesting. We can play a C and then have a bunch of derivatives of subdominants. Or derivatives of dominants in red. And then the green is back to our original note. It kind of loosely follows the rules of box chorales that we went through earlier. So we have this suggestion box. Let's start with C minor. And then if the top suggestion is red or blue, it'll actually lead you back to a resolution. Oh my God, listen, it's the 4 chords in every single pop song ever made. Bam, 1 million views. It has some various options, a internal built-in synthesizer that is just a string sound. You could change the scale degree to function, to chord, and then you could sort of change the way that the magnetic notes work. This is almost entirely ideal for what you would want with a plugin that helps you write melodies. Unfortunately, it cost $100, it's only 32-bit, and it hasn't been updated since 2013. So it's safe to say that it is pretty much abandonware. I hope that FL Studio incorporates this into their DAW, or I hope that a plugin like Cthulu comes out with a new version that has this kind of functionality. This is really the bread and butter. It's just, unfortunately, old and no longer being updated. So that's a big bummer. This is freeware, and it's called Chordz with a Z, and it's actually pretty handy. For example, I have variations on major sevenths with a C, and let's listen to them. And I can change that to melodic minor with a D sharp, take off easy mode so we could actually see which notes we're playing in a root, and it's actually kind of handy. Another thing you could do is you could choose scale only and quantize your white keys all bunched together in easy mode for easy performance restricted to that scale. So instead of having to do this for whole tone, I can just choose C, whole tone, and now I'm going to play it through here, and I only have to hit the white keys. Except one of them is missing. I call this composition harmonic minor while just randomly pressing keys. Of course, if you were using this to translate the notes you were playing on a live set, which is kind of like auto-tune for a pianist, every time your song changed chords or scales, you'd pretty much be screwed. It would actually be quite useful for ethnic instruments. For a free plugin, it's actually quite well done. You could randomize some of your velocities here and change some of the delays. So I'm only pressing one key here. It is totally free. It's freeware, so grab it. And if you like it and use it, then donate to the developer, because I'm sure him or her has a lot of cool ideas that they would like to bring into your DAW. What we're looking at now is Sugarbyte's Thesys, which has a lot of features and is definitely pretty cool to play with. However, I've always been a little bit conflicted, and it seems like MidiBot, that one that I covered earlier, sort of covers all of these things a little bit better, but that's just my opinion. This one's powerful, but it's just not as generative. So for example, we can go down to Performance and for some reason do this. Pitch bend. That's pretty cool. We can make this a major chord. We can make it a major chord with a different inversion. We can make it that different inversion with a 7th. Or a 9th. Or a 6th. And then we have these little effects on the side, like looper. Or slow down. Down here we could randomize certain things, like I want the octave randomized there, and on this one I want the pitch randomized. I don't know if it's gonna fall into the, yeah, it'll still fall into the alien scale. And then here the trigger will be randomized, so sometimes it'll happen, sometimes it won't. Sometimes this will be a major chord. Interesting. This one will roll sometimes. And then here we also, speaking of rolling, we have this. Playing with it this long, I feel like I've already exceeded the expectations from opening it after I've had it for over a year. This is actually not so bad. I think that it's not exactly generative in what we're looking for in this video, but I guess I'm glad that I opened it because it is actually a pretty powerful plugin, and you should check it out if any of this appealed to you. This is called Scaler, and it costs $50, and speaking of scaling, check this out. Wow, look at that. Every time you have the option between installing a VST 2.0 or 2.1 or 3.0 plugin, you should always choose 3 because you can scale them. Scaler has some pretty interesting presets. Leon Switch's 3rd preset, for example, is kind of gives you some ideas. But that's not really what this does. This is where Scaler gets very, very powerful. I'm going to record some notes into Piano Tech. Okay, that's just our little phrase, and we'll just loop that. So what notes did I enter? We're going to detect, so great. Now, Scaler will automatically give us all the things that fit, and it will even give us little tags like exotic, Latin, lively, hopeful, dreamy, yearning, ethereal. All right, let's try that. All right, Scaler, what you got for me? Let's go, we don't want to go to world music quite yet. Ooh, jazzy, bluesy, rocky, sophisticated. So right off the bat, I just played a little phrase and then got a bunch of ideas for how to harmonize it, which was pretty awesome. But we could even go deeper, and so for example, that C minor. I want to hit some chord variations on that. So, and if we could even go deep into jazz over here. And then we also can change the voicing. So let's just choose this voicing. Let's go to suspended 4th, 7th, and 9ths. little bit overkill. But what this successfully did do is if I'm writing a type of song that has a counterpoint melody that is redundant and not really changing scales all that often, it gave me some pretty good ideas of what I could put behind it and the feeling that those chords and the variations of those chords will translate to the listener. This is Liquid Notes, and I can't get any button to do anything. I can't even stop this sequence, and it's just playing this C major arpeggio over and over and over and over again. It's almost impressive when your first impression of a piece of software is below having an ice cream truck stalled in front of your house. Oh my God, it stopped. Oh my God, it stopped. No! All right, so I Control-Alt-deleted it, and now it won't reopen, and now somehow my display capture doesn't even work. So I guess I'm gonna reboot. I'm scared to resize the window again because last time it was a disaster. Okay, so how this is supposed to work is, let's say I start with a C, and then it doesn't change to a C. Okay, if I click the wheel, it changes to a C. Then the next note should be able to tell me what is the safest next chord. But I can only choose from these. All right, what if I change my function? There we go. Okay, and then what if I go? All right, so here's my function, and now I want, let's say I want to go wildly different. So F major 7th, 9th, eek. D, go up to a D7. Okay. This is supposed to change color to tell me how wildly different this. There we go. I'm trying to just make this sound wrong by getting a bunch of oranges and reds. I don't really, a lot of these aren't registering up in the, let me look at the piano roll here. All right, let's change the starting note to a subdominant. It didn't change anything, it still sounds the same. Change the starting note up here. All right, a B will sound way different. There we go, okay. It didn't actually, okay, so everything I just did was like apparently reset here. Ugh, and sometimes this drop-down menu comes, sometimes it doesn't. All right. Yo, dude, I just click that and ugh. And it doesn't register up here or in the piano roll. Ugh. Now I can't even get back to track view. Oh, finally, after 3 clicks, I got back to... Okay, so I wanted to give this a fair shot. I've been playing with it for probably an hour today, going over all the tutorials, over all the manuals to make sure I'm doing everything right. And I seemingly am. It's just so incredibly buggy for me that I just can't get it to really do anything at all. According to KVR Audio, the last update was in April of 2015. There is also a Max for Live version, apparently. Maybe that runs better than this one. Maybe that's what they're dedicating all of their time on now. But for me, this is just not running very well. And for $150 for something that hasn't been updated in over 3 years, I'm going to say a big no. All right, so what we're looking at here is Synfire, and that's sort of like the mother of all reharmonization software, apparently. And what I'm just going to record a little MIDI segment here at 120 BPM, and I'm just going to play one chord over and over again, and then we're going to reharmonize it. So. Actually, maybe I'll change. Okay, a nice little 30-second boring piece. Now I am importing that MIDI file. All right, and here it is. All right, so maybe we could quantize the time. That'd be good. These are our chord progressions, and if I want to change that first chord, let's say to a D7. And then when I went up to that E, well, I don't think I went up to that E. I think it automatically did that. Let's make that a, can we get a E major 9th maybe? That'd be nice. There it is. And then let's go up to a G11th. And then let's go down to a F Maj 7, well, F Maj 9. And this should sound way more colorful and crazy now. Not bad. I really should play a new phrase. Okay, so I recorded an incredibly boring phrase, and what I'm gonna do now is select all, transform, and quantize positions. So this is our phrase. Seems to have trouble figuring out exactly where these chord changes are, but whatever. Now here is our progression window where we can change the chords around. So here's our first chord, which wasn't really in the sequence, but maybe there's a way in the settings to change this, but it seems like every time I sample a chord, it hits it at 127 velocity. I honestly feel like I put in 5 times more work into choosing the chords by chord listing than I would have by just changing it in a piano roll or something like that, and it's a little bit less interactive. Not to mention, I also have to have knowledge of music theory to know exactly what I'm selecting when doing this, and even then I found myself being like, oh, this should sound like this, and then selecting it, previewing it, and then having to change it again. So that's sort of, as a compositional tool, I would be in hell with this. So this is the chord palette, and this apparently makes things a little bit more tolerable than what I was just doing. By selecting this chord, it shows me different ways to play it, but it doesn't really do all that much in suggesting where to go next. I guess we'll just go here for some reason, and then, all right, let's hear what we're doing. I'm still not really feeling what's going on here. Okay, so this is the harmonizer, which is a bit more helpful in terms of the software suggesting things. You have these suggestions, and they have the suggestions that are rated. However, doing big arcs in this and making big changes is a little difficult. So, like, for example, I want this C major 7th to change to a D B major, and I just, maybe I'm just stupid and can't figure it out, but I'm going to have to do that in the other window. That's not going to work in the harmonizer. So let's go to the other window and find this. Okay, and I want this to go to a dB major. Oh, that's not what I had in the harmonizer at all. Uh-oh. Did I lose everything? I may have. No, maybe not. Let's hear it. No, it's still that same C major 7th. So total honesty here. Over the past week or two, I have played with this demo for probably 3-4 hours all combined, and I have read a lot in the manual. I've watched a lot of videos. I reached out to the company telling them that I'm going to be covering this in this video, and do they want to send me an NFR version and sort of hold my hand through it so I could give them a fair rap, and I didn't get a response. That's nothing against the company. They might just be super busy, but I hate giving unfairly bad reviews, and I'm not going to do that here because I am just going to claim ignorance and I do not understand what's going on. For example, I hear nothing right now, okay? This is just the example arrangement that it asked me to open to play. I've configured my sound settings just fine. This supposedly plays, so I have all right, flute motif. Instrument, we have a sound case fluid R3. I have no idea what that is. Let's choose the internal general MIDI synth. Hear that. And apparently there's something coming out, but there's nothing being played here. If I record it, it's using my MIDI as a metronome. Okay, now can we hear it? Okay, so it's still sort of coming out of Piano Tech, which is running in the background as a MIDI out. No matter what I change this to... Oh, now I don't get a sound. Okay. So I'm going to claim ignorance. I have no idea what's going on. I do not understand how this software works. So, for example, on their site, they've taken a piece by Claude Debussy and scanned the performance of it and then rendered against completely different chords, those of Angel Eyes, and processed with the shift parameter, which creates a very human steel time effect. I assume they meant, I don't know what steel time is, but it sounds like this. This is really, really fascinating and interesting, and this is the kind of thing that really draws me to this software. So a lot of this is really, really fascinating. And Synfire Pro costs an estimated USD $766. Whew. Synfire Express cost $441. They also have Harmony Navigator, which is has some of the features of this, but I truly didn't have time to check it out completely. I really wanted this segment to showcase Synfire's strong points and do the things that I'm hearing in this example for you in this video to show how it works. But I'm realizing that the learning curve is tremendous for this software. If this software interests you in any way, they have a demo, they have a forum, and they even have a wiki. And if you want to dive in and if you want to learn all the things that you need to learn to be able to do the things that you hear in the presets, by all means, you can do that for free, and you may be able to enjoy the software better than I was able to. The software seems stable, it seems updated frequently, it has a lot of active users. I just don't have the time to get around that learning curve for something that I'm never going to use again for the purpose of my own composition. So the only thing I'm going to say about it is that there is a very sharp learning curve. And if you have an understanding of music theory, if, for example, you are a violinist that is looking to write your own music, this actually may be more intuitive than a DAW for you, considering that you have to learn all this stuff from the ground up anyway. However, if you are a composer who writes melodies by ear inside a DAW environment, and a lot of people are, this is going to be very dysfunctional for you, at least at first, unless you want to dedicate the time to learn it. So my verdict on Synfire, it's complicated. This is Rapidcomposer, which has a very unique interface, and it does have a learning curve, but it is also a pretty helpful and cool piece of software. So we have all of this stuff to choose from, and so these are my phrases. And I have a lot of different types of phrases that I could choose from and generate. So we have like phrases, here's a guitar phrase, if I could play it. Right, so we can go into our composition and we can drag that over into here. Or if we would rather use this one, I know you can also play these on select. There we go. Or some piano. Interesting. Let's choose that. Okay, I want the expression a little lower, and let's play it. Now these are all suggested, so like if it we start with that, it suggests this, or it could even suggest D major. And then it will suggest, if we want to make some sharper changes, we could go to B diminished, which we don't want to do. And then E major again. Let's go there. So now let's hear it. Now I can also drag this stuff down and up. So also in these suggestions, if I were to choose like an A major 7th in here, it would be red and it would say, dude, this doesn't work. So, which is pretty helpful. All right, so we can also auto harmonize things. So I'm gonna choose box major scale rules. Let's go with less expected and auto harmonize. Okay, and now let's go through that suggestion thing again. So we're starting with this. It always wants to end on that E major, eh? That's better. All right, let's try this out. Okay, now we can have a melody generator, which just sort of generates random melodies. All right. right, let's hear it. This is probably the most impressive that I've seen thus far in this video. All right, we got Serum here, and now we're actually getting somewhere. I'm gonna add another track for a bass line, and let's choose Serum again. And we will make a bass generator, but I wanna hear what that sounds like first. Actually, we could choose from these bass phrases that are already here. Yeah, that's a little more dynamic. Ouch. All right, chill out, chill out, chill out. Obviously, this isn't the most interesting composition you've ever heard, but if we're taking the expectations that I set in the monologue, this is working very, very well the way that we would expect it to. If that wasn't enough for you, this has a bunch of chord progressions, and when I say a bunch, I mean a bunch, like every possible chord progression that you could think of, even some bizarre ones like this. This will be a weird one. But of course, it has pop and rock scored. The axis of awesome, 4 chords. Look, it's the chord progression used in literally every song written since 1812. Wow, I really, really want to see what sensitive female chord progression is. I did not expect this software to be sexist, but I want to hear this. Okay, sensitive females. Are you ready for this? Here we go. This is a sensitive female chord progression. I'm kind of reeling back in horror a little bit because it's right. Yeah, I'm going to give this a thumbs up. If you're a composer that is looking for a digital muse per se, and you want to get your foot in the water to start a new song, you just need that extra set of ideas to create something. I think that this is really, really good for that. And it costs $200 for the full edition, $79 for the light edition. There is a demo, and you could get that from musicdevelopments.com. And this is Rapidcomposer. So I am, and there's no online activation. That's always a big plus for me. So yeah, I like this. This is pretty good. I dig it. It's very unique. This is Orb Composer, and Orb Composer takes quite a lot of time to set up to actually get working with MIDI out. For example, I had to map all of the Orb MIDI outputs to different instrument inputs here in Contact. Intensity. It crashed. No, I have to do all of that all over again. Oh my god. Let's start over. I'm gonna choose a theme. I'm gonna choose a I don't know. How about some questions and answers? Sorry that I'm not as thrilled. Can I select a mood again? Can I do that? Actually, ooh, jazzy. Okay, we could select mood. Nope. we could select a jazzy mood, a pop rock mood. Let's just use a pop rock mood. Boom. Okay. Now we have our instruments here, and we're going to, since we're in C major, we're just going to create, we should be able to create everything. Bam. Okay. Please be in the same. Yes. Okay. I don't have to reroute the MIDI. That was my big problem, is this bass isn't really a bass, is it? You need this to be lower. But I guess I'm kind of glad it crashed, because you get to see how easy it is to create a song. It's just click, 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 you have a song. Which is, you know, pretty much what this is for. Can we change things to Aeolian, for example? Would that be possible? Ooh, this is going to be interesting. Change this melody. Okay, hopefully it doesn't crash this time. I'm going to move the intensity up. Here, I'm going to start with the intensity down. It's going to be very mellow. And then the intensity is going to get up, higher. It's going to be very, very intense. And the momentum as well is going to start very low. And then the momentum is going to go up much, much higher. But while the intensity is high in the end, the momentum will go down. I have no idea what this is going to sound like, but I also want to choose some different chords. So let's go with, what's a fantastical? Loss. Okay, this loss will be because it crashed. It will be the loss of my session. All right, let's do this over. Okay, here we go with the intensity and the momentum being edited. That's actually pretty cool. Okay, so this band of mine is going to be evil, and the evil is going to start at no momentum whatsoever. It's just going to be very little evil, but at some... Oh no, did it crash again? No, don't crash. Oh, whew. Wait, did it crash? Did it? Am I done here? I'm done here. Oh my god. Oh, we're back. Okay, it's working now. Nope. We've crashed. Yeah. Round 3. I'm going to make an intro. And then I'm going to make the theme. And then I'm going to make a super, super intense theme. And then it will end. Bam. Okay. So to do this, the intro will just be, how about just one standard, and then the theme will be an answer question, or question answer, and then, oh, it duplicated that. What if I wanted this to change? Okay, I gotta go back and put end in again. End. I don't really know it. Should I drag a chord to end? Should I drag? What if we just have that? Will that work? Okay. Now I will choose evil because I'm not sure if it's my computer or the program, but Oh, danger. Actually, how about mystery? Okay, so the intro is mysterious. Can we do that? Bam. Intro, mysterious. Evil theme. Then it will become wonder, or loss. That'll be loss, because loss happens after evil. And then the end will be space, because then we go to space after the loss, I guess. We just leave the planet and get the hell out of here. Okay, so these are our segments here. I'm going to choose to create everything for this block. I'm going to create everything for this block. I'm going to create everything for this block. And I'm going to create everything for this block. Now, if our MIDI mappings are correct, let's try this. This isn't very mysterious, but it's actually creating a melody that is out of nowhere, which is pretty cool. Oh boy. And now things are going to get way more intense. Here it comes. I probably drag and drop the wrong one, because that's not more intense. Despite all the crashing, I am kind of impressed with that. It is pretty... I wish we could choose whole tone and just make this sound absolutely crazy. All right, everything's Aeolian now. Or just everything. What if we changed these to pop rock? How about that? Let's start there. Then we'll go to this chord progression. Then we'll go to this chord progression. And then we'll end. This doesn't really fit here, but whatever. And I'm going to speed up the tempo by quite a bit, because that took a long time to listen to, and I don't want to listen to an entire track. I just want to get this done with. I'm not sure what's happening here. Okay. Maybe if I go to stop, I could just go on 80, 60. Can I select this? 150. Okay, I'll deal with that. That'll be fine. Okay, let's play it. Oh no, it's the same 4 chords used in every song ever. The axis of awesome. That bass is so high, which you can edit. Oh, I see. I could actually be changing my scales over here. Oh, nice. So I could actually change. I didn't realize I could do that. I could change. So I could go from like C Aeolian to F Lydian and to A Dorian. And then let's listen to this now. Oh God, I hope it doesn't crash, but we could actually deal with our intensities here. And we will build up to that theme, which will then simmer down, which will then really simmer down, but it's gonna build up a whole bunch until it's insane, and the end is just gonna be maxed. All right, let's hear this. This is gonna sound so botched because I've messed with the scales, but let's give it a try. Oh, you know what? If I were smart, I would select all of these blocks, Can I shift select blocks? Yes, good. And I'm going to give everything new notes, because I don't want to hear the same thing again. I don't want to hear a version of the same thing again. I want to hear entirely new melodies being pumped out of this. All right, here we go. Triplitville. That, I gotta admit, is pretty damn cool. That's pretty impressive stuff. To be able to, rather than, I didn't write a thing. I didn't play a note. All I did was set it up to Kontakt, press a button to generate stuff, and then edit the intensity up and down. And if they had the tags just a little better, you know, if I could just click sparse and click emotive, and if that actually showed up with things, this would actually be a little bit more useful. And of course, the stability, I don't know, again, I don't know if it's my configuration or if the program is buggy and crashes on everybody's computer, but if it was more stable, a little bit easier to set up, and if they got their tags down and maybe add some more progressions and stuff like that, this could actually be a pretty great tool for someone making a background for a video on YouTube or something of that type, I guess. Or I guess if I were just vacant in my head in terms of inspiration, which has happened to me in the past when I used to overload myself with composing work, I would just not be able to pull an idea out because I was just doing it so much. And if that were the case, and if I loaded this up and then exported the MIDIs, which, can you export the MIDIs? Yes. Okay. And then I exported the MIDI files, and then actually, you know, this guitar sounds abysmal, but it's not the fault of the program, it's just how samples work. Yeah, I mean, it's just, but I would play that on the guitar then, and I would record it if it was for some professional reason. And I could also mess with things and make them sound a little more interesting in a DAW. But I have to admit that this is actually pretty useful, and I love the interface because it's very, very creative in terms of not requiring a musician to make music, which is what this whole thing is about, right? This whole thing is about machines generating music, and not knowing a thing about music, you could come into this program, and as long as you watch the tutorials on how to set it up with Kontakt or your DAW or whatever, you could create some music from it without knowing anything about creating music. So does Orb Composer win? Rapidcomposer was super fun to play with, but I'm a musician, and I knew what I was selecting and all the things. This, if you're not a musician and you need a melody, I think this is as good as you're going to get. At the time of this video, Orb Composer costs 399 euros for the Pro version and 149 bucks for the artist version. You can see the differences on their site. The company seems to be pretty aggressively active in terms of updating their software, so that's good. The price is pretty steep, but I guess if you work as a video editor or something and you just need something to crank out music quite often that is not, you know, the grade of hiring a composer, then I guess that's a fair price. But it's for just a musician to use with Ableton or something like that, that might be a little bit out of your price range. To give you full transparency here, a truth bomb if you will, and it should be pretty obvious, I did not learn all of the features of all of the software that I covered today. That would be close to impossible to do. I wanted to give everybody an overview of the options that are out there for melody assistant or songwriting software, or software that writes songs rather. I'm very self-conscious about this because something I never ever want to do is not learn how to use something properly and then blame the software for not working when I just wasn't reading the instruction. Unless it's a user interface problem or a learning curve problem, for example, what we saw with Synfire, if I have a problem with a piece of software or hardware, I'm usually blaming myself first. The problem's me. I'm not understanding how to do it right. Even when this crashed, I went over and I was like, am I running this right? Am I doing something wrong? Do I have a issue with my MIDI looping back around and causing it to crash? I want to make sure that I'm just giving a fair review, especially when I'm being critical. And so, full transparency, I didn't learn all of the features of all these things, and there is a lot more to some of them, and you should definitely check them out. Everything I covered today, I believe everything I covered today, has a demo or is free. As always, with any of my videos or any video on YouTube, if there is a demo that exists or if something's free, you should check it out yourself and form your own opinion. And you should definitely do that with everything that I've covered today. Hopefully, this video helped guide you through what is commercially and freely available in songwriting assistance software. None of it is mind-blowing, but a lot of it is certainly useful. Despite many of these software suites claiming that they're using AI, it is in my opinion that they're not. They're just creating a nice, easy interface for doing what I did in the first video on my modular synth. But what if we make computers try and emulate our emotions, or rather, try and emulate our emotive performances? What are some of the unique alternatives in the way that we use a computer to write music for us? Well, I'll see you in a few weeks. As always, thank you for watching. If you learned anything or enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel, and if there's anything you want me to cover in the future, leave me a message in the comments.